Hello everyone and welcome back to my series, my show. Soki's looking for dreamies, but you've had plenty. You've had plenty. My battery's about to go. There's not much on there. So I'll do a quick update for Saturday and maybe give Soki some dreamies first. Look, are you going to jump up? Oh no, far too many fell out. Oh, it'll keep him happy. He can stay there for a while we talk about books. Yesterday, I spent a good portion of the day. I kind of took a day off from work, although I didn't. I ended up doing another pass through something and bits of admin stuff. Doesn't matter. Bits of work. But I did spend a lot of time reading. And I devoted a lot of time to Frankissstein, the Jeanette Winterson novel of 2019, I think. Nominated, longlisted for the Booker and all sorts. Now, in context, I have to tell you, going back to 1989, I've been a massive fan of Jeanette. First of all, I read Sexy and the Cherry back in 89, 90 or 91, when it came out in paperback. So probably 1990. I remember the summer. It was at the end of that summer when I stayed in Lancaster and wrote a novel and read 50 novels and spent every day up at the park in the sun reading and writing and thinking. I was 20. And she's a big part of that. And I read Oranges, Not the Only Fruit, and The Passion. I think this one is my only original copy from that time. The others are dotted about the house, and I read everything else since through the years, with a bit of a gap in recent years because I read her book based on The Winter's Tale and didn't like it much. I thought she was doing old tricks by rote in the way that writers can. Anyway, I sat down with Frankissstein and didn't like it really, I'm afraid. I think she does lots of the things that she always did. The different levels of time, the sudden juxtapositions, chapters which will go from the present day or some kind of strange fugue state into the past and then pop out again. And somewhere she quotes Virginia Woolf in one of her books, talking about lives stacked like plates on a waiter's hand. I think it's in Orlando, and she runs with that image through a few books. And you get characters who are kind of different versions of each other scattered through time, which was always a very exciting image to me. We have a similar thing here. The real meat of this book, the real heart of it, and the bit that has any kind of real emotion in it, is the stuff to do with Mary Shelley. When we go back to 1818 and the years afterwards. But they're fairly static chapters. We get a chapter by the Villa Diodati, where Polidori and Byron and Shelley and Mary Shelley, etc., are having their famous time where she writes Frankissstein and the others write their stories. That's kind of passed over quite quickly. We're centred very much in Mary Shelley's experience and follow her through the years, ending up with Shelley's death. But we skip. It's like she chucks these stones across a lake and they plop, 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 and you just get the plops. You don't spend an awful lot of time with them. She writes in this impressionistic style that often is very sensual. It was in the earlier books, especially in, say, Sexy and the Cherry. And you really felt like you travelled in time. There was a weird feeling to it. I loved that sensation. With this, not so much. And eventually it converges where Mary Shelley meets Byron's long-lost daughter, Ada Lovelace, who will be involved in the invention of the computer, which is a central theme to the rest of the book, the rest of the strands that work into the book that are more or less in the present day, to do with various characters working in AI and sex bots and teledildonics and artificial everything, who all talk like research. It's meant to be funny and flippant in a kind of, I guess, Kurt Vonnegut way. She's always had that Vonnegutian kind of comedy to her. And they spend time in tunnels underneath Manchester, where there are all these kind of nuclear bunkers and things, and people are slicing up human brains and looking into intelligence and how human beings might be stored electronically for future use, and intelligence might go on. None of that is very convincing, I don't think. There's no emotional heart to it. There's a love affair between one of the professors and a trans character who we meet early on, who never really convinces, a female to male trans character who just feels like a voice piece. It's one of the things with Jeanette's stuff before, that you felt that characters were being used as the voice piece for the author. And it really feels like that. The research into the AI stuff is kind of whopped in. Characters talk in these semi-digested chunks of text, especially when she spins off into allusions to other texts that go beyond Frankissstein or whatever. She reminds me of being in my 20s and loving her work, but also writing stuff where I was so keen to show off my wide reading and my intelligence that you couldn't help alluding to a million other books. And she's still doing it. She hasn't got over it. It feels like someone still in their 20s. Oh, is that unfair? You feel that nobody's ever said, why not try it a different way? She's somebody maybe who isn't edited as harshly as other people because of the success of the early books, so she's still carrying on. And it seems old-fashioned now. What seemed very zippy in the early 90s, with these different timelines and different lives braided around each other through time, and the way she talked about story seemed very up to the minute in the early 90s. Now, not so much, because I suppose because it's been taken on in everything. There's nothing she does here that the latest Marvel multiverse movie isn't doing. And the contemporary stuff doesn't convince because they don't feel like characters in the real world. There's a scene, a very unfortunate rape scene in a bathroom with a trans character in America that is, I don't know why it's there really. It seems to be grabbing attention for its own sake. And the emotions of any of it don't kind of register. It's meant to be a love story, but I don't get that. And as I said, the real heart of it is in Mary Shelley, who's only in it a little bit. Her passion, her physical passion, her intellectual passion for Shelley, which feels a bit non-reciprocal. He nicks off with Byron. That's the heart of it, but we don't get much of that. So I felt like I was ploughing through it a little bit, which is a shame, because I always felt with Jeanette's books I was waiting for the next one, and they never lasted long enough. This overstayed, which is a really unusual sensation for me to have reading one of Winterson's books. And maybe that's just when you expect too much of someone because you've read them all your life. And as I've said before, writers don't owe you anything. If you love their work, 2 or 3 books, 2 books, 1 book by that writer should be enough. You don't have to love everything they write. And you're not allowed to get cross at them because they've either left you behind, or you've left them behind, or you've parted the ways. They're still doing their thing and you're looking for other stuff. That's what reading's about. Yeah, and maybe that's why you can't really be a fan in that pop music way of writers. I don't know. I just didn't like it as much as I as I wanted to, and it's a shame. Right now, I'm resisting the temptation to go back to the early books. I need a rest from that slightly hectoring, lecturing tone. Maybe it's become more strident, whereas before it was playful. Trust me, I'm telling you stories, all those kinds of effects that she had. Maybe it's just become more strident and professorial, which is, not so much fun. I guess it's lost some of the joy of these early books. That's the thing. And I think joyfulness is very important in fiction. So now I'm reading something very light and slight and summery. Sue Moorcroft, One Summer in Italy. I really like these kind of contemporary romances, the ones that are kind of set abroad sometimes. I really took to them when, especially during, we couldn't go anywhere in lockdown. So at the same time, I'm like, this is so obvious. There are plot devices here that are so obvious. They're making my teeth ache, and there's a sweetness to the book, and a self-righteousness to the narrator, what she called Sophia. A kind of big sisterliness, and I think that's part of the genre as well. A kind of moral purity that is slightly annoying. Maybe it's a wrong juxtaposition to go from the high literary pretensions of Jeanette Winterson into the kind of light bourgeois affectations of contemporary romance. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll enjoy it more. I do like the Italian atmosphere, though, and it makes me long to be on holiday. And luckily, today is a really beautiful day. We have to go out shopping. We have to go out and get some groceries, ready to sit outside in the garden tomorrow with friends and do food and all sorts for them. So I need to get on. I just thought I'd stop and mull over my thoughts about reading Jeanette Winterson all these years on, after since the 90s. Okay, goodbye everyone, and I hope you're all having a lovely weekend.